Having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Porch Light Letters podcast number 2536. Where was your family when they learned to ride a bike? Talking about a bicycle here. So where were they when they learned how to ride a bicycle? I remember we were living in Fielding at the time, and my birthday was coming up, and I was actually out been practicing on my friends' bikes to learning to ride a bike. And then a couple of days or a week before my birthday, the shed was locked. And the shed was where we kept our play. It was like a playhouse for us. It was just a garden shed, and all I had in there was just our playthings. And it was locked, and we weren't allowed to go in there, and it's like never locked. And so we're looking through the keyhole, and I could make out the pedals on a bike. So I thought, oh, getting a bike for my birthday, yay! So on the day of my birthday, they gave me a package. It was about yay big, and I unwrapped it, and it was the key to the shed. So me and my brothers went running out across the backyard to the shed, unlocked the door, I threw it open, no bike. There was nothing in there except for our regular play stuff, no bike. I'm like, oh. And so then we ran back inside, and sitting in the middle of the kitchen was this brand new bike for me. We did have training wheels on it to start with, but I had been learning how to ride a two-wheeler with my friends on their bikes, and I was 9 at the time. It was either 8 or 9. 9. I think I was 9. Yeah, 9. I was 9. And so I now had this new bike that I could go and ride on, and it was like freedom. I could go ride my bike. I walked basically up until then. I'd been walking everywhere. If I needed to go downtown, I walked. If I needed to go to the shop, I walked. If I needed to go to school, I walked. I basically walked everywhere, and now I could ride my bike. It was freedom. I could ride further than I had, but then I walk, and it just felt like so much power running through your veins. But learning to ride a bike is one of those childhood moments that stays with us for the rest of our lives. For many families, it was a milestone filled with excitement, encouragement, and more than a few wobbles. There were scraped knees, nervous smiles, and someone running along beside us, refusing to let go until it was time. Then came the magical moment when the pedals kept turning. The bike stayed upright, and we were finally realized that we were riding on our own. That was such a spectacular moment. I don't recall my dad riding alongside my bike with me because I had that with my friends. I've been riding their bikes, so kind of used to it. That first ride was about much more than learning a new skill. It was a lesson in confidence, perseverance, and believing that falling over didn't mean giving up. The cheers from parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, or neighbors became part of a memory that many people still smile about decades later. Every family has its own bicycle story. Was it a brand new bike for a birthday or Christmas? Mine was for a birthday. Was it handed down from an older brother or sister? Nope, I was the oldest. Did someone spend hours teaching them, or did they simply jump on and figure it out for themselves? Basically, I learned to ride on my friends' bikes and figured it out for myself. They gave me hints and tips along the way, but basically, yeah. Sometimes it's the little stories like these that become the most treasured. My husband said that he was never allowed to have a bike growing up because his 3 older brothers had put the kibosh on that one. They lived at the top of Roscommere Road in LA. And if you've ever been up Roscommere Road, you know it is a very steep hill. And the older 3 boys apparently would go riding down the bikes without having to turn pedals and use their shoes. and they wouldn't use the brakes on the bike. No, they would use their feet and use the curb to help stop them, use their feet, any other method than using a brake on a bike. So when it came Brad's turn to get a bike, it was like, no. So he didn't learn to ride till years later. And he had his brothers to thank for him not being able to have a bike and ride a bike as he was growing up. I think my mother-in-law got fed up of all the new shoes she had to buy and the bikes that had to be repaired from running into curbs and all that sort of thing to help them stop. But, that was one of those things. And I'm sure many families have different stories, something similar, different, it doesn't matter, but everybody's got a riding story in there. Family history isn't made up of only major events. It's also built from everyday moments that shaped who we became. Learning to ride a bike is one of those simple experiences, that often carries a lifetime of happy memories. Oh my gosh, being on a bike. I loved being on a bike and being able to go and bike different places. In my teenage years when we were in Waitara, a friend and I, we would make sandwiches and basically make a picnic lunch, and would put it on the carrier on the back of our bikes, and we'd go biking out into the countryside, and then find a place to sit and have a picnic. We discovered these little country lanes and things that you normally wouldn't go down with a car. We went blackberry picking one time. The blackberry vines were on the side of the road, and we'd stop there, and we had ice cream containers. In New Zealand, you have a 2-liter ice cream container. Those are very handy. They're plastic. They've got lids that go with them. Very good for storing everything in. We used it to put our lunches in, and then on the way back, we'd stop and pick blackberries. And so we would put them into the ice cream container to get them home safely. Very easy thing to do, but so many things. And then when I got my first 10-speed, I saved up and purchased it myself. And my brothers were going to the airport to catch a flight. And I was, for whatever reason, I was a stubborn teenager, decided that I was going to ride my bike to the airport. Yeah, the road between Waitara and New Plymouth with the airport road going off is like this: uphill, downhill, uphill, downhill. I thought, I've got a 10-speed. I just put in a lower gear. It'll help me get up there. I was thinking the gears on the 10-speed would actually help power the bike. This is before electric bikes came along, but would somehow help me get the energy that I needed. That when I put into low gear to go uphill, it would be easier to do. And then I put it into the high gear to go down the hill. And of course, you'd use that momentum to get you up on the next hill as well. By the time I got at the airport, I was totally and utterly drained, and I'd only had my 10-speed for like a few days. I don't think I'd had it for a week at that point. So I wasn't used to riding it. And I got to the airport and was like, I'm not riding this home. And my dad was there in his patrol car. He was a traffic cop at the time. And my mum was there with the family car. We saw the boys off, and they said, you're biking home. We told you not to, they did the I told you so thing. And they said, you chose to ride the bike to the airport. You ride it home again. And I was so pissed off. I was so upset and annoyed. But I rode the bike home. I took a lot longer getting home. I stopped off at friends of ours. I stopped off at their place. They had a place at the top of Big Jim's Hill. Asked for a glass of water. So I got a drink of water from there because I didn't have a water thingy on the bike. And then I took the back roads to get to the hill that I had to go up. There's a hill on the other side of the river that you have to go up to get home. There's no going around it. But I wound around other streets and stuff. It took me about twice as long to get home as it did to get to the airport. By the time I got home, my mum was like, are you okay? Where have you been? Da, 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 da. Because you didn't have cell phones in those days. And I said, I stopped off at the Joneses' place for a glass of water. And then I came home through these roads here and stopped here and got an ice block or popsicle. And then I rode back here. And I think I ended up, I'm not sure if I walked the bike up the hill or rode the bike up the hill that I had to get to home. Don't remember which one I did all that. But I eventually got home like twice as long as what it took me to ride it to the airport. But I got there. What did that teach me? Think about things before volunteering. Don't ride your bike. Don't ride a brand new bike out to the airport when you haven't ridden it around town, or on hills or anything like that. And that was in the day before helmets, before high-vis vests that you were wearing, and that. And I was just I was in shorts and a t-shirt and sneakers, and that was it. Very, very different to how people go out bike riding today. So family history isn't made up only of your major events. It's made up also built from everyday moments that shaped who we became. Learning to ride a bike is one of those simple experiences that often carry a lifetime of happy memories. And I know I've just read it out, but I think it's important that people understand that. So your challenge for today is ask a family member about the day they learned to ride a bike. Who taught them? Where did they practice? Did they fall off? Do they remember the feeling of when they finally rode without help? Record this story today because the smallest milestones often become the memories we cherish the longest. And let us know in the comments below about some of the stories that you hear about what riding a bike was like. I still remember my days riding bikes, the adventures that we went on. We get on our bike and just go for a ride. When I was down in Christchurch, I had my 10-speed down there with me in Christchurch when I was based at RNZF base Wigram. And I used to take my bike down Riccarton Road all the way to Hagley Park and bike around the park and then head back. There was slight hills because there were bridges that went over roads and you had to go up the hill, up one side, across the bridge and down the other side. But not any steep hills. I stayed away from those. And then there were times where a friend and I would decide we needed to go shopping in downtown Christchurch. So we'd hop on our bikes and we'll go down to downtown Christchurch into the city centre there and do some shopping and then figure out how to carry it back on our bikes. That was always fun. Yes, we had some adventures, and we had some adventures on our bikes carrying stuff back. I remember one night we were going to go and see Torval and Dean. They were touring with the ice show, and they were down in Hagley Park. So my girlfriend and I, we got on our bikes and we rode to Hagley Park. It was daylight, and we forgot that when we came out, it's going to be dark. Did we have lights on our bikes? No. Did we have torches or flashlights with us? No. How did we get home? We basically rode the footpaths home with the street lights as our guide because we couldn't go out on the roads. Were we in light clothing? Kinda. We weren't in dark clothing, which was thankfully, but we were in lighter clothing. We had no high-vis vests on or anything like that. And that was probably the scariest ride I've ever done. In the dark with no lights, and cycling from Hagley Park down Riccarton Road, which is a very busy thoroughfare, to the base. And once we got on base, we felt safe because there was good lighting on there, and we felt, we knew our way home from there. But getting back just down Riccarton Road and that was hair-raising at times. Can't believe we did that, but we did. We rode our bikes to see Torval and Dean and then rode our bikes home in the dark with no lights. Hope Dad doesn't see this. But I've been on many adventures on bikes and enjoyed them. And even when we're in places like Hilton Head, we rented bikes in Hilton Head Island and used that basically to get around the island. We did drive at times, but just to go out exploring, we'd just get on the bikes and go for a ride. So that was good. And at that time, Brad was able to ride bikes too, so that was good. But my parents even have e-bikes and go out on those on beautiful days here, usually during the summer. And so I'm saving up to get my own e-bike so that I can go on some of the trails, because they have some really cool trails that go along the coast where you can go up and down the coast, and they're expanding it at the moment too. But they've got some good biking trails and that sort of thing. There's some really cool little cafes along the way where it's just off the trail. And so they're used to having all the cyclists come in and that sort of thing too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, to having the freedom to be able to do that. Although right now I've got a bus at my gate. So I kind of enjoy that too. But anyway, I'm out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here. Excuse me.